everyone, and welcome to episode 536 of the MTGGoldfish podcast. I'm Seth, probably better known as Saffron Olive, and we have the full crew here this week, kicking things off with the owner of MTGGoldfish, Richard. How are you this fine Monday, Richard?
Good morning, Seth. I'm doing well. How are you doing?
I'm doing super well. I got to watch a bunch of tournament Magic. We got new spoilers. It's an exciting time in Magic, but before we get into that, we got another co-host in Krim. Good morning, Krim. How you doing today?
Pretty darn good. Was pretty high on everything that happened over the weekend at Hartford. There was lots of cool decks being played at the top 8, so I'm really excited to talk about it.
Well, I'm glad you're excited to talk about that because that's one of our topics for today. So we got two big topics. We're going to talk regional championships from Hartford, some standard action, and then, of course, Final Fantasy spoilers. The new cards keep coming out. We got some sweet ones to talk about. So that's the main plan for the cast today. Before we get into it, a reminder that today's show is brought to you by Card Conduit, and Card Conduit's the easiest way to sell your Magic cards. If you ever get tired of the hassles of buy listing, you can skip them with Card Conduit. You can use their curated service where you send in as many cards as you want with a buy list value of $1 or more, and pay just a 5% service fee. And if you want to do a bit of work, you can use their sorted service where you list and sort your cards in advance and pay just a 2% fee. Either way, you're going to get a detailed report with the results and a fast payment once your order is processed. And you can even get another 10% off by heading over to cardconduit.com/MTGGoldfish. Card Conduit, it's the easiest way to sell your Magic cards. So thank you to Card Conduit for supporting the show. And let's talk some Magic, and let's start with Standard, Regional Championship Hartford. We'll get to Final Fantasy in a minute. So, big tournament this weekend. All eyes were on this event to see our last RCs had been very dominated metagame percentage-wise by Izzet Prowess. So the big question was, did anyone solve Izzet Prowess? And it turns out the answer's kind of up in the air. So on one hand, Izzet Prowess was a huge percentage of the meta. 36% on day 1, 41% on day 2, posting a solid, last time I saw, I haven't seen the full numbers, but last time I saw 52, 53% win rate, somewhere in that range. But that was like halfway through day 2 when I saw the last update. So I haven't seen the full stats on that yet. On the other hand, if you look at the top 8, it's actually like relatively diverse, I would say. It's not like 6 Izzet Prowesses in the top 8. Richard, why don't you tell us what actually happened? What's in the top 8 of this tournament? We can dig into it a little bit.
All right, let's go places 1 to 8. Okay, mono red aggro. It's mice. Wins. 2, channeling Krim, Azorius control. Izzet Prowess 3rd place. Orzhov Pixie 4th. Orzhov Demons 5th. Another mono red deck at 6, and then 7, 8. Also Prowess. Prowess 36% of the meta in day 1, 41% in day 2. And then mice wins, of course. It's mice.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you think mice is actually the solution to Prowess, Krim? Just go faster? Because I think mice is faster than Prowess, right? Like, Prowess is way more resilient. It's got stock ups. It can play the long game way better than mice. But if you're just trying to race, maybe mice is actually the way to go.
Let's go back for maybe when the set just came out, Tarkir Dragonstorm, I think like first week. I was jamming the deck just for fun, like, Corey Steelcutter, well, this card might be good, right? And so I'm playing it, and I did find that more often than not, I got ran over by red. it was just really hard to keep up while also trying to do your thing. Like, just playing Corey Steelcutter on turn 2 felt scary. Right, like it's like, this is a pretty big turn, and I don't want to get got by all their own, like, because they have Prowess creatures of their own. But one of the big things that I'm really happy to see break out of this tournament is Mage, Bane, Lizard, which you're catching in a lot of these red decks. And for those that don't know what Mage, Bane, Lizard is, it's 1 in a red from Outlaws, and it's just a 1/4 Lizard. So it doesn't get shocked. It can only get Burst Lightning with Kickered, right? Or bounced. But whenever a player casts a non-creature spell, Mage, Bane, Lizard deals damage to that player equal to the number of non-creature spells they've cast this turn. So, which is great when they're out there trying to just make some tokens. You're able to just ping them every time, and they're expediting their life loss game plan against your aggro bolt. So,
right? If you trigger Corey Steelcutter, that's 1 and a 2 at your face. Yep. That's a lightning bolt, right? So that's crazy.
Yep. It is only non-creatures, which is most of the Prowess deck, but you can, slick shots, stray catchers. There are a few creatures in that deck. What do you think? So I feel like that card's really good against Prowess, obviously. How is it against the rest of the meta, though? Is this just a sign of the meta being, like, kind of inbred, where it's like play prowess or beat prowess? Is this like, remember when Hogak was in Modern and we were playing main deck ley lines? Is this a standard equivalent of that in some way, that you're playing main deck main mage lizards to try to beat the prowess deck?
Mice is a real deck. You just kill them with all your other cards if it's not prowess, right? Like, it's still mice. If you don't have the interaction, you're dead, right? And you can still play a normal game. It's just you have the first place list has 3 lizards in the main deck, so, and then a 4th one in the sideboard, but you just have 3 tech slots. But let me tell you, before people invented this lizard tech, this deck was slaying prowess, right? Or at least 50. Well, it was close. I don't know, right? Like, it wasn't a lopsided match. It was a reasonable matchup. So this is just a little extra kicker for the win. But, like, you know, sometimes your hand is clunky and you just get run over, right? And if you don't have removal on the right turn, you're dead. So there's the free wins, and then you can also just beat them the normal way. So is this the meta going forward? I don't know, but, like, there's other, like, when we look at top 8, right? Like, 1 win or loss different in the top 8 would change this whole standing altogether, right? Like, it could have been Demons that won. It could have been Azorius Control, whatever. Like, you don't really know. But it's a viable deck, I would say that, right? Like, they went through 2 days worth of 41% Izzet Prowess and made it to the top, right? So, like, you know, this person was slaying prowess the entire tournament, so it's certainly viable.
I also think the lizard is just good against Pixie, right? Because, like, they are taking multiple actions in a turn, usually. And it is quite nice, and it's a 1/4, so it doesn't get... Once again, the 1/4 body at 2 mana means this comes down early enough to actually matter, whereas opposed to, like, some 5-mana hate card, right? So I think it is a big thing to factor into this deck, or this card. Along with that, I mean, the other decks that were popular, like, is like Simic Terror, right? That deck showed up here and there as well, was somewhere in the top 20. So I don't know. I really love the lizard, and that's some spicy tech. And you had mentioned another deck like that they've been farming Izzet Prowess all day. Another deck that did that is second place, Chris Patello's Blue-White Control. If you look at his match history, first off, Chris, I see you. Thanks for all the raids. How you doing, buddy? Good stuff. Good stuff. This deck is sweet, right? Like, just when you thought Control was dead, you know, it just shows that I think one of those decks, and kind of like why Prowess is also popular, is that this deck also sets you up for a bunch of game time decisions and rewards you real nice if you play it nice and tight and close to the chest. So good job, Chris, on this. This deck looks sweet.
The man killed 8 Izzet Prowess dreams over the course of the tournament. That's like kind of insane, right? But all his matches were like 2-1 though, so I don't know, right? These are all sweaty control matches.
The most interesting thing, I saw Chris tweet today that he was 2-12 on die rolls, so he was on the draw 12 of his 14 matches in the Swiss, and he still managed to, like, kill a bunch of prowess decks, which is very impressive. Yeah, the control deck's sweet. I feel like control can be good if you're really good at control. I feel like you have to be a solid control player to find success with control, and Chris is, like, a really good player. So I think that that's part of it, is control can beat the prowess decks if you're good with control. I think Pixie's really good against the prowess decks. That's, like, the reason to play Pixie now. Unfortunately, it has very polarized matchups, and it's really bad in some other matchups, but it is very good against prowess in specific. You shouted out the Simic Terror deck did well. There was also a Roots deck that lost their winning in for top 8, which was, I feel bad for Jesse. Jesse Peeland, I believe his name is. He lost to winning in last RC playing Boros Monument 2 weeks ago to prowess, and then this time he lost his winning in to prowess playing Jund Roots. So he has 2 spicy decks, but neither one could quite get over the hump and make it to the top 8. So what do you think of what this means about the meta? When you look at this, in your personal perspective, do you look at this and you're like, hey, Standard's pretty good, like, there's a bunch of different decks in the top 8? Or do you look at it and you're like, yeah, 41% of day 2 being prowess, increasing from day 1? That sounds horrible. I'm very curious because I've seen so many, like, there's so many different perspectives on this just from talking to people on social media and stuff. But what do you guys think? Like, what does this tournament tell you about the meta?
I mean, look at the top 25 decks. It's got every archetype kind of represented, right? There's a good spread here. Yeah, Izzet Prowess is strong, but this is a good spread, and that's why I was really hyped on this tournament. We just look at it and we're seeing everything, and I would very much so rather Izzet Prowess be the best deck than Mono Red, because Mono Red is so brutal, man. Like I might even think we're Izzet Prowess is like Mercy, and I'm like, okay, cool, I'll take that because Mono Red is brutal.
I would say, even though we always talk about top eights are basically meaningless unless you're actually trying to win like one of these tournaments. Okay, like if you're trying to win one of these tournaments, top 8 means something to you because you plan on getting there and you need to have the right meta. But like if you just look at the day 1 and day 2 meta, like 30 to 40% of the field is Izzet Prowess, which basically means when you go to an event, you expect 30 to 40% of the field. That means, 4 out of 10 matches are against Prowess, right? So it doesn't matter that, let's say there's a breakout deck and like the top 8 is filled with this other deck, but it was only like 2% of the meta. If everyone in the field is playing Prowess, you're playing Prowess, or you're playing against Prowess, and that's the metagame. So I would say the metagame is not diverse, especially given this is like the third weekend in a row that it's like Prowess dominated. Like if next week there's a big tournament and the top 8 percentages are what the field percentages look like, then you're like, yeah, meta's perfectly healthy, right? But if it's 40% Prowess again, and then the top 8 is just random, diverse deck, it's still a problem, right? Like when you go to FNM or when you go to your tournament, you're just playing Prowess nonstop anyway. So I would say it's problematic, and I would say given that it's the third week, is it the third? Second? How many tournaments have we had?
The third big RC
third
weekend, yeah.
That Prowess is still here. It's like not unanswerable, right? But the meta is definitely skewed towards Prowess, and it's play Prowess or beat Prowess kind of deal. So it's not ideal. Is it a problem? I don't know, but it's definitely not ideal. And I would say look at the day 2 numbers versus look at the top 8. I would say look at the day 1 numbers even, right? Like, like you should just look at the whole metagame as a whole, right?
Yeah, I feel like the top 8, like it's an easy, we put a lot of weight in it because it does matter from a tournament perspective, but you're very right that there's so much variance, right? With like one game, one missed land drop being the difference between top 8, top 32 or whatever. So there's so much variance that goes into it that I do think you got to view it holistically. I view a deck being that high of a percentage of the meta problematic just on its face. Like, regardless of why it is or how it is, just like that big of a metagame percentage bothers me, and I don't like it. And I think that means eventually things need to change, whether that be because Final Fantasy changes things or because we get to the ban window in a couple of months and that has to change things before rotation. We'll have to wait and see. I think for me, the most concerning part is everyone knows Prowess is really good, and the metagame percentage has been increasing week to week rather than decreasing. Like last tournament, 2 weekends ago, it was like 30% of the meta, now it's up to 36. So it's heading like the wrong direction. You would hope that you would see, okay, people know this is the deck to beat, so we play the cards to beat it, and it starts to come back to the field a little bit. But we haven't seen that yet. And I have a question I got to ask you that came from coverage. So one of the takes from coverage yesterday was, part of the reason that Prowess is so heavily played is Magic players are lazy. And rather than trying to beat the best deck, they're just kind of sheep that are going to like grab the best deck and play the best deck and not even bother to try to beat the best deck. Do you put any weight in that argument? Do you think that the problem here is people are just not trying to beat the deck for some reason?
I mean, the way it's worded, obviously a little aggressive. But do I agree with the sentiment? Yeah, I think I do. I think that as somebody who plays Standard every day, it's not gloom and doom and miserable as it's made out to be. I think this is a very fun format, and as long as you play tight and you are prepared for it, you're going to get rewarded. I think a lot of what like Jim Davis and Corey were talking about is that like, yeah, like let it breathe, let it do its thing and become the best deck or whatever. And if it's just continuously ruining the meta and turning into like a 1 to 2 deck meta, then okay, that's a different story. Now we got to ban it. But as of right now, I mean, I like seeing where it goes. I don't think it is the only deck that exists. There's a lot of Magic happening outside of it. It's just kind of like what Jim and Corey are talking about is there's always got to be a best deck, and right when you're the best deck, everybody's focused on it.
I agree with you. It's aggressively worded, but okay, think about it like this, okay? Let's say you are really good at Magic, okay? Like, let's say you are LSV level good, right? And there is a deck that's clearly best deck in format. And maybe it's only best deck by like a couple percentage points. Like, it's not Hogak levels, right? You can just show up at a tournament and be like, every mirror match I will win because I am better at Magic than you, right? And then for all you brewers out there that screw it up, like, you think you can beat the best deck, but have you played the best deck piloted at the best level, right? You probably haven't, and I will crush you too, right? And therefore, I can walk my way to an easy, like, top 32, top 8 with, like, very little baseline, right? Or I could go and spend, like, 4 weeks brewing some monstrosity, right? Get everything right, recreate, like, the entirety of the metagame and, work it all out. And then if I'm right, maybe I get a couple more percentage points than just playing best deck in format. If I'm wrong, I get obliterated and like all that work is like wasted, right? So I think if you are good at Magic, you would just play the best deck, right? Like, maybe you have 1 or 2 like tech points. Now, is that lazy? I don't think so. Like you don't get bonus points for fixing the metagame or something, right? Like, you get bonus points for winning, right? So I think the most optimal use of time for most people is to just grind the best deck and then play it better and then get people who think they can brew to beat the best deck, but they didn't really because they never played someone at your level, right? And I think that's always been right. And you really do need like a pro tour team of like 10 people coming up with the best deck and then having the best pilot play it, like the Eldrazi winter kind of thing. Like, I think that's rare, right? Like, that's so rare. And most of the time, they just play the best deck in format, right? You just remember Eldrazi Winter. But for every Eldrazi Winter, there's like 5 pro tours where they just play whatever the best deck is or their favorite deck or whatever, and they just go with it. So lazy, aggressive, but kind of right.
Isn't that just following the incentive, though? Like, it's hard for me to think that you have pro players who are trying to win Worlds invites in thousands of dollars in prize money, and they're making a suboptimal choice. I feel like if you have 40% of the people choosing to play that deck, isn't that a sign that that is the best deck? Is that actually laziness, or is that just doing the right thing to do in the context of tournament Magic? Like, shouldn't you try to play the deck that's going to make you win the most? Like, when isn't that the obvious choice? I don't see how that's actually lazy. That seems like you're just following the incentives of, like, how tournaments are set up. The other thing I take issue with, because I'm kind of on the opposite side of this, there's like 20 million Magic players, probably more than that now. There's so many people grinding games of Arena. There's so many people playing so much Magic. I've seen so many, remember, like, copycat combo, stuff that Wizards misses in the community within 30 seconds of the card being spoiled. There's like, oh, that's an infinite combo. That's going to break stand. Like, if there really was an easy pathway to just like, oh, we could just like beat this deck, don't you think someone would have done it out of those 20 million people who are grinding games endlessly? Like, I kind of take issue with the idea that there's
Amulet Titan. Amulet Titan existed in its entirety for the longest time before someone decided to put the cards together and play it. Like, that is an example of laziness, right? But like, how many Amulet Titans can possibly exist at once? Like, is there a combination of standard cards that makes a better deck than Izzet Prowess? Maybe, but like, are you seriously going to try like every combination of everything and like cook for like 40 hours before, most likely ending up on Izzet Prowess again? Like, is that effective use of time? Or should you spend 40 hours practicing the mirror, right? Like, the incentive is just to do the more obvious line, and then someone will cook once in a while and they'll be a hero. But most of the time you just cook and end up with like burnt toast or something, right? So I don't know, right? Like, but Amulet Titan is like that lazy point, right? Like, anyone could have invented Amulet Titan for the longest time. Or maybe like even like Lantern Control, like these weird like off the wall decks that come out of nowhere, but you're like, wait, there's 0 new cards here. What happened? Right? We failed somehow, right? So like,
I mean,
it's possible,
just
but unlikely.
In standard alone, you have Azorius Omniscience. That has also existed for a long time. It just took for the meta to get into a right spot, and it took just like a few tournament results and people willing to enter with it, and it now is everywhere, right? You're seeing it all the time. So just within this standard, you're seeing Azorius Omniscience kind of pick it up, because that didn't blow up at like Foundation's launch, right? Like, it just took a while.
Is that not a product of Prowess being so heavily played, though? Like, is that not a side effect of Prowess being a dominant meta? Because that's one of the decks that can actually race it and has, like, a reasonable matchup, and it's not dead against the rest of the field, like Pixie or whatever. Like, I almost feel like that's just a side effect of Prowess's dominance rather than, like, an innovation in the meta.
But is that a problem with Prowess per se, or is that just the best deck, a symptom of the best deck? Because whenever there's a best deck, that's going to shape the meta. That's always been true. And best deck doesn't mean that it's problematic either.
The problem I have with the best deck argument is that, like, yes, there's always a best deck, or almost always a best deck, but I feel like that argument doesn't really mean much, because there's a huge difference between that best deck being like 15% of the meta and being 40% of the meta. If you put them all in the same group of they're just the best deck, what does that really tell us about the metagame? Not a whole lot, right? Because Oko was the best deck, Callblade was the best deck when Jace was 32 out of 32 in the top 8, and then we have best decks where it's 10% of the meta, and it's like incredibly diverse, and that's still the best deck in the format. So I feel like that argument just doesn't do anything for me, because it just doesn't really tell us anything about the actual metagame we're in.
What is a healthy percentage to you for best deck? I'm curious. Because,
well, I went through the last decade on the Wayback Machine, just like looking through, and historically, somewhere like 15 to 20% is like what I would consider normal for standard. If you just go through standard metas, that's kind of normal. Super diverse standards, maybe you have the best deck at 10% for some periods of time, but I would say somewhere in that like 20% range would be a healthy standard format. Once you're at 30 or 40%, I think if you look historically, that's like Eldrazi Winter was like just over 40% when it got banned. If you look at recent standard bannings, a lot of those decks, like the Omnath deck, was 38% right before it got banned. I think once you're in that place, I think there's a problem just based on metagame percentage. But that's my take. I feel like it's so weird to me. I feel like the Magic community has normalized decks at 40% of the meta, and it blows my mind to hear people arguing that that's normal. Because to me, I'm just like, that is the furthest thing from normal that I can see in the history of Magic. Like, to me, that's like flashing red lights if something's wrong here. When other people are like, oh, 40%, yeah, sure, yeah, that's normal. I'm like, no, that's not normal. That's not normal.
Here's what's normalized: complaining. Okay, and that's why this complaint falls short. You know what I mean? Like, okay, before this, it was bounce, right? Bounce is still in the meta, but, like before this, it was Beans. Beans still in the meta, by the way. It was Monstrous Rage, still in the meta, by the way. And people just always continually complain. So, like, why is this complaint any more valid? And guarantee you, we get rid of Prowess, people will complain about the next thing, right? So, going back to the commentators' comments, it's not like people are lazy. I don't think that's what they're trying to. I don't think they're just sitting there like just calling people lazy as fun of it. They're really saying people complain too much, and you should suck it up and like beat the meta or whatever, right? And I think that's what people are saying now. Like, we ban Prowess, we will complain about the next thing. Guaranteed, right? Which one do you want to complain about? Beans? You want to complain about? Oh, you want to complain about like Sunfall, a Monstrous Rage? What do you want to complain about next, right? Like, so part of it is complaint culture, and I really want to go back to the days of like zero bans, right? Where no matter what happened in standard, you knew Wizards was not banning anything, and you actually were incentivized to brew, right? And like to play if you wanted to play. Because nowadays, when the meta looks bad, I'll just be like, well, I'll just go do something else, and the complaining will reach a point. Wizards will ban something, then I'll come back and then play the new meta game once Wizards ban something, right? But if you knew Wizards was not banning anything, you would be incentivized to brew and like to do something to make it like less boring for yourself, right? So it's complaining, and we've complained so much, we're used to it. So now your complaints of 40% meta just fall deaf on my ears, right? Because it's just so much complaining, right?
Magic is like 90% complaining and then 10% arguing with your play group over rule like, 0,
well,
I think.
Tell me, concern,
which is more
what is your
complaining.
arena ranking? Bronze. Well, where do you play? By like 10-person FNM, right? Like, I would take these complaints seriously if you were like an RCQ grinder and you're like, look, I played 50 matches of Magic this weekend, and like 45 were against Prowess, and I'm done with it, right? Like, the deck can't be beaten. But if you're playing like Magic Arena from like bronze to plat or something, you can do whatever you want. Like you can play like it's actually quite diverse. It's not all prowess. Like your suboptimal strategies work. It's fun. You can experiment with new cards. So for most Magic players, like this is not particularly relevant, right? If you're trying to grind pro tours, then yeah, this like kind of sucks for you.
Arena is pretty prowessy. Like, I don't know, what's your experience, Ben Krim? I feel like the 40% metagame percentage probably isn't that far off from what just playing the ladder on Arena's like.
It varies, right? I swear, it's like some days it feels like 1 in 5 matches, and then some days I just don't see it. Like, and it's always on the days where I'm like, haha, today I added the 4th.
I'm gonna be prowess today.
I am so ready. And I only get paired against, control decks, right? Or demon decks and things like that. So I don't know. It does feel way more varied. And especially in best of one, where you normally, if I don't see it every matchup, right? That is kind of shocking. Because best of one skews towards the aggressive game plan. And even then, like on some of the worst days, I see it maybe 2 in 5 matchups. And those are like the worst days where I sit from like 1 p.m. to 10 p.m. just playing all day long. And that's not that bad. I swear. I think, okay, I know I said it before, but I think it's because prowess players, they win so much, they get to go to bed early, so they do everything. They don't play late. There's a window, man. I think there's I swear there's an hour in the day where they are like, okay, I gotta grind, and then I'm
Krim 6 hours in this session. I need my 3rd win, okay?
So we should talk some Final Fantasy spoilers. Before we do, I want to ask one last question based on something Richard brought up. Do you think the era of no bans could work with current card design? Because I kind of feel like the no banning philosophy worked really well back when we used to constantly give Wizards credit for, oh my God, they've had this game for 25 years and they've done such an amazing job of handling power creep. Like they would power sets down and all that kind of stuff. Do you think that philosophy can still work in the Fire era, where it's all about designing the most powerful, exciting cards possible? Or do you think that the design philosophy makes that a little harder than it was 10, 15 years ago when power creep was more in check?
I mean, I think that right now, the way they've kind of worked all the bans, they seem to have navigated it relatively well, right? I mean, I think they can keep going for a little bit and keep just trying. I want to see what it looks like in another year, because I think we'll be in full stride with the 3-year standard, right? We still have part of not 3-year standard in our current standard, but I do not like banning all the time, and I think that maybe there is merit to the no ban culture, because if we would have banned Up Nixilis, we would have banned Shealdred, we would have banned all these things that people complain about. And look where those cards are, or were.
That sounds like heaven. Utopia.
That sounds.
I don't
remember
care
when
doesn't see
Shealdred
play anymore. They can put it on the ban list. What do I care? Get that card out of here. That card's
Do
busted.
you remember when everyone week 1 of Capenna's like, oh my God, it's the new Oko. This is it. Ob Nixilis is gonna ruin the game. And like a week later, it was just completely gone. No one played.
I feel that was almost pre-season hype. I think once people start playing that card, they found out pretty quickly that it was not quite as good as people thought. Yeah.
I don't think we need bans anymore because of our accelerated release schedule, right? Like when you release 3 sets a year, bans were a way to insert more change into the format, outside of those things. But now that we have so many sets releasing every year, every time you release a set, it can be a way to change the format, right? So I don't think we actually need bans anymore, and it would really shut everyone up, right? If you just knew there were no bans, then your whole Reddit discourse every week wouldn't be about banning these cards, like a negative thing, right? Like imagine you're a new player coming to this game, you're like, let's read the official forum for Magic the Gathering, right? And it's just all people endlessly complaining, right? Like it's such a negative vibe. Like if you just said there are no bans, so it's useless. And people are just gonna stop complaining because it's not gonna have any impact. It'd just be more positive. It'd just be a funner game, I think. Whatever you lose in gameplay, I think you get in community morale or something. So I think just get rid of bans altogether in standard. And then you have a million set releases every year. Use that to fix the format and then go with that. But it's just the constant complaining about I just want a top like 20 list of all cards we complained about this year, right? And like how many of them are still relevant and how many of them are still legal? Like that's the thing, right? We just keep complaining, and then the next thing comes out, and like what Final Fantasy card are we going to complain about next, right? So that's what I don't like about the current state of affairs. Not the gameplay. The gameplay is okay, but the complaining is just off the charts.
I think there is a concern though if the game plan is to fix things by power creeping things, then we become Yu-Gi-Oh, and I do not want that. Right?
We're already there, no?
No, okay, we're getting there with the alternative like casting costs and pretty much everything's free. Yeah, sure, we'll work our way there, but if we could stay away from that for a little while and also not have it be power creeping things out is our way of fixing things. I do think that is a bad way to go about things. But like, yeah, I don't know. Magic's done a very good job with rock, paper, scissors, and that kind of fixes a meta, right? The meta has been shifting. It's always 1 week a new deck at the top. Or like so far, there's been lots of numbers. Yeah, I know, Seth. You're. This may not make sense, but blue-black demon going to the top and getting the most plays and being the #1 deck for that week on the ladder or at the tournament scene, beating Prowess. Sure, that's got to mean something, right? And then it goes to like Prowess this week, and then it goes to Zur Overlords. You know what I mean? Like, there's been a lot of top decks that can get wins, and I think that's just something I like about where the standard is. It took me a little bit to like kind of get down with it, but like as someone who sits here and plays it all day long, I'm still having fun. Like I it's that weird feeling where it's like, dude, I just got my teeth kicked in by Prowess. Let's go again. I wanna go out. I'm actually upset there are no paper RCQs right now. I am so upset right now about that. That's what I want to complain about.
Oh God, you like getting beat by Prowess.
Poor
like,
Grim,
Core Steel Cutter. Great.
It all
Core
makes
Steel
sense
Cutter
now.
#2. Oh yeah, this is so doable.
Give it to me. Where's the third one?
May I have another? Thank
you. Anyway, that's the current state of standard. There's no ban list update at this time anyway. We got till the end of, I believe, June or July for the yearly update. So nothing's going to be changing now, except we're going to be getting Final Fantasy cards. And we should probably talk about some Final Fantasy cards because there's some cool ones that have come out since last week and some good stuff to complain about, which we know is our favorite thing to do. So Richard, why don't you guide us through some Final Fantasy cards?
There were good cards last week. Someone sent me a memo. MTGPreviews.com. You can see all the latest Final Fantasy cards. We actually got the 4 commander decks last week as well, so you can check out the deck list on the website. But let's talk about the long-awaited Buster Sword. So 3 mana artifact equipment. Equipped creature gets +3/+2. When equipped creature deals combat damage to a player, draw a card. Then you may cast a spell from your hand with mana value less than or equal to that damage without paying its mana cost. Equip 2.
This is such a good sword. The problem I have, okay, so this calls back to sort of Fire and Ice and sort of Feast and Famine, very similar. 3 to cast, 2 to equip. You get 2 abilities when you get in a hit with it. You don't get protection, but you get a little bit more buff, I guess, with +3 power instead of +2. My problem with this card for Standard is I just don't know if swords are good in Standard. I think you could drop literal, like, Sword of Light and Shadow into the Standard, and I'm not sure. Fire and Ice, choose your favorite sword.
Okay,
and I just
boomer.
think the archetype of, like, 3 to cast and 2 to equip is so incredibly slow. So I think this card's really powerful in Commander. What do you think, Grim? Is there any chance it's actually a Standard playable? I just see, like, when was the last time we had an equipment that you actually had to play honest-to-goodness mana to equip to a creature, and it didn't create a creature in some way or, like, attach itself in some way? Are we going back to Cawblade? Was that actually the last time we had, like, a fair equipment seeing play? That was 15 years ago.
Cawblade is not equipment. Right? Let's be real here.
Hey, you played swords, though.
Technically, it had swords, right? But technically, every deck was a swords deck in a GT era, right? So I think as a card alone, this might not look as powerful as you would think. But maybe Buster Sword itself is not the best thing to happen. But I think the equipment archetype between Cloud, Zac, and the wide array of swords, like Cloud being able to get Chainsaw, things like that. Yeah, Cloud with the Chainsaw, my favorite. But this is, I think there might be a package here. I think
I hope there's an equipment deck. That'd be sweet. It's been so long since we've had an actual equipment deck in Standard.
Yeah, it's called Izzet Prowess. What are you guys smoking? Of course there's an equipment deck.
Oh, come on now. Come on now, Richard.
Oh my god, this card is unplayable trash, and I am so disappointed at okay. So this is made for the Commander Cloud, which is the Naya one. It's a 5-mana 4/4 haste. And then when it enters, you can attach an equipment to it. So free equip. When it attacks, you draw a card for each equipped. And then if you have 7 or greater power, which you would with this Buster Sword, you get 2 treasures. So then you get to cast a 7-mana spell for free. You drew 1, you drew 2 if you hit, right? So that's what it's made for. Other than that, this is like complete trash, right? Like 3 mana, then you equip it, 5 mana, you hit someone, you maybe cast a 5-mana spell for free, right? But you spent so much mana and so much like comboing, right? You need the creature, you need the Buster Sword, you need to equip it, you need to make it through combat. Like none of this is happening in a normal scenario, which is why like the only equipment we see are ones that come in at instant speed, auto equip, or have like living weapon, right? Yep. Like having a creature stick in Standard is very difficult, let alone telegraphed equip onto it and then hit someone, right? Like a single chump blocker ruins your day, right? So I'm so sad.
I don't know about that.
This is the most iconic card, right? This is like the most iconic card. Why?
Richard, I think, okay, did you look at Zach?
What does Zach do?
Zach Fair. He is a 1-drop, okay?
Yep.
And when you sacrifice him, target creature, he enters with a 1/1 counter, right? Essentially, you pay 1 mana, target creature gets indestructible, and you get to move the equipment and the 1/1 counter or whatever from him to another creature. So I think he kind of serves as the Sigarda's aid. And I think that's really
It has to be
good.
attached to Zach to begin with.
You still got to spend the mana to put it on him, right?
Sure. But I think Zach's ability there makes for big moments. And I think combine that with Lost Jite. Lost Jite is a card we may have forgotten about, by the way, from the big score. I'm not kidding.
I didn't know you were looking so hard so early in the morning. Jeez.
Dude.
Zach,
and they say Magic players, and they said Magic players were lazy. Just look at Crim. Break I want to see Sword and Lost
They're
Jite,
like,
all
Corey
in
Steel
one
Cutter.
podcast.
And you're like, Lost Jite? Pass? Buster Sword? Pass? Oh, what happened? I'm dead already. Why is my screen red?
My portrait blew up. Oh no. I don't know, man. I think there's got to be something there, right? Like there's no way you make Cloud and he's poop. Right? Like, there's no way he's poop.
No. I think you're missing it, Krim. It's not poop. It's just made for Commander. These are just cards that were designed to be very good in Commander, and it's not designed to be competitive in Standard. That's my take, is that I feel like this sword did exactly what they wanted to. You look at Standard Cloud, you can tutor it up. Richard talked about the Commander Precon Cloud. It's like built to work with that. There's also the Starter Deck Cloud that makes things cost 2 less to equip, so it works with every Cloud in Final Fantasy. Those are just like Commander cards. So I think it was designed to be a really good Commander card. I don't even think if you ask Wizards, they tell you they were expecting it to be like a tier 1 Standard card.
It's on flavor. Buster Sword is the first sword you get in the game. It's poop. It's iconic. But you don't go to the end game with Buster Sword equip. You're not going to RCQ with a Buster Sword. This is your starter deck card.
No, you're going with the Ether Spark. Because I genuinely think the Ether Spark. Though, okay, this is, you remember everybody's like, oh, my immersion with, Universes Beyond coming to Magic? What about the other way? My immersion, why is Cloud equipping a chainsaw or Ether Spark? But, like, I think Ether, like, the funny enough, it's the other weapons that exist that are already here from Magic. I think Lost Jite, I think Chainsaw, I think these are cards that are very good with a Stoneforge. And I don't know, man. I think there's just no way he's poo, right? There's no way. And yes,
just
I know
drop
that he
Cloud,
designed
get
for
Corey
Commander.
Steel Cutter.
Yeah. It does.
Hey, Zach, trigger the Steel Cutter, beat him with the monks.
We did it.
You can pretend the monk is Tifa for immersion purposes.
Cloud does play Corey Steel Cutter, which is also an insane equipment. So all of it's there already. Boros equipment. There it is. It's got to be good.
All right.
I will look forward to your
eventually.
Gorse equipment deck. I'm looking forward to it.
Let's go. Okay, talking about Tifa. Is this a good card? So 2 mana, 1/2, Human Monk, Trample, Landfall. Whenever a land you control enters, double Tifa's power until end of turn.
So this card intrigues me because it's pretty easy to one-shot kill, like on turn 3 in Standard. You need like 1 pump spell and a fetch land, and you get 20 damage on turn 3, and it has Trample. It reminds me of like the 2025 edition of Electrostatic Pummeler. I don't know if you remember Pummeler back during like Kaladesh, where basically you were just trying to set up this one-shot kill. I feel that's what Tifa is. I think this card, there's no way you play this fairly, right? You don't just play this and make a land drop and now it's a 2/2 and you hit them. Like, you don't do that with it. But if you actually build around this, it seems like kind of a scary card to me. The upside is really high.
She doesn't even double her
how
toughness.
Pummeler felt. like Pummeler in Standard was like this cute deck, right? Like it's very cute.
It was not the best deck in the format. Right? It wasn't even tier 1 probably. That's true.
But you know, it was that deck where it caught a lot of people slipping. And I think this will be more of that, right? We have Snake Veil Skin. We have the few cute tricks that we've got to like give it protection. But just remember, Nowhere to Run exists. We have 15 different edicts in Standard. So that play style, I don't know how good it is in the current year. And maybe this is the deck that just like absolutely hoses everybody randomly and no one expects it. But I don't see that happening. Just because of the setup, right? You still need Fabled Passage. You still need Tifa herself, right? And then you got to have the 2 lands that you would need to play. And then you need one of the pump spells that give like +4/+4, right?
Yep. Which
like
there's
the
only
one
like 1 2-mana one in Standard, I think.
It's not even
the one with the corgi.
a chump blocker, right? You need a little. So if you get to 5 times 2 is 10, times 2 is 20. But if they have a chump blocker, you need a little more than that. And we're talking about a turn 4 caught slipping kill. Like, we have those decks in Standard already. It's called Mice. It's called Izzet, right? It's called Slick.
That's
Slick
every deck, yeah.
Like, if you're caught slipping, but like those decks actually have a legitimate like plan B, right? Like if you slip and don't draw the Tifa, then you're sitting there with pump spells in hand and you just get rolled, right? So my guess is this goes nowhere. But there's like some pretty meme kills. Like you can do a turn 1 kill with Tifa, right? Like involving like
Standard?
3 mana pump spells, fetch lands, concordant crossroads.
Oh, like in Legacy or something.
Yeah. There's like all these weird turn 1 kills you can do, but in Standard, I think this is like way too much when you have like just literal mice that will do the same thing, but much more efficiently with like a real plan B. But it's kind of cool.
It feels to me like a deck that we'll see like 5-0 or whatever, but it won't actually be a consistently good deck. I feel like it's one of those decks that if you like run hot and like play the right matchups, you can cruise to a 5-0 with it, but then it's not going to be like a legit tier 1 best deck in the format. That would be my guess on the card.
All right, so we poo-pooed Cloud, we poo-pooed Tifa, so we know how to show favorite
Cloud. I still like Tifa.
Let's poo-poo Aerith.
Cloud is poo-poo.
Is Aerith any good? So Aerith Gainsborough, 3 mana 2/2 lifelink. She's a human cleric. Whenever you gain life, put a +1/+1 counter on her. When she dies, put X +1/+1 counters on each legendary creature you control, where X is the number of +1/+1 counters on Aerith.
Remember how one of the complaints we had is everything is legendary? This means that there's going to be a lot of things getting 1/1 counters. This is also in a Johnny's Pride Mate that actually has lifelink itself.
Yeah.
Where we don't normally get that, right? It's you usually got to like have some other piece. But this one does have lifelink, and I think that's going to be pretty big. Awkward that it's at 3 mana, because at 3 mana, 2/2, not like 2/3 or something like that, does mean that you play this and just get shocked, and everything trades up efficiently against it. But if you are able to get up a few setup pieces, like, look, I've been trying to force Soul Sisters in Standard, okay? And let me just, I know, I think I've been hanging out with Seth. I've been hanging out with Seth for too long, okay?
Because but was it good? It's got to be good in Soul Sisters, right, Krim? It is. It's got to be.
Yeah. It is good in Soul Sisters. Yeah, and this has got to be years of being, like, hanging out with Seth.
Finally.
Okay, there is Soul Warden effect, Case of the Never-Ending Feast or whatever, right?
Isn't there a rabbit too? Hinterland something like a bad Soul Warden. Yeah, there's a lot of pieces to build a Soul Sister deck in Standard.
We also have the Bat, right? The Bat on 2. We've got literal Ajani's Pridemate in Foundations, which we may have forgotten about. And I don't want to lie to y'all here. There's some hot tech I've been playing with, and it's Alenda or whatever. The vampire from Foundations that has protection from instants. Prowess literally gets pantsed by that card. And so I'm just saying there is a shell where I think Aerith is actually really, really good, and it obviously rides on a lot of the Soul Sister engine and how many more life gain pieces they'll give. But there's a lot there right now already, and I think it's pushing up towards like tier 2.
I could see that in Standard. The other thing I wanted to mention about the card is I think it might have Modern potential because it's a combo piece with Agatha's Soul Cauldron and Walking Ballista, and we already have decks in Modern that play both of those cards. So if you can exile, get this on the battlefield and exile the Ballista, then this turns into a Ballista since it has lifelink. You remove the counter, ping, infinite damage, blah, 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 infinite life. So I think it might show up in Modern in a little bit in those combo decks with Agatha's Soul Cauldron. What do you think, Richard? Are we gonna have Soul Sisters? Is it happening? Modern combo?
On the Alchemy ladder, do you know what I lose to? I'm playing Izzet, Corey Steelcutter, basically. There's a black-white life gain deck that like pantses all the time. And it has some key alchemy cards, but Authority of the Consuls, right? Pantses Prowess, right? Like you have the life gain engine, and then all your stuff comes in tapped, so you're a whole turn slower. So I can see a world where we do get a life gain deck in Standard and it does something useful. I'm not sure how good Aerith is because like how many legendaries would you be running in that deck? But I could see a life gain shell and Authority of the Consuls being like an actual legit card that's going on. So I could see that. But Dying to Shock is, or like Burst Lightning, whatever, is like pretty bad. Like even if you have a way to gain life that turn, trigger on the stack, kill Aerith, right? So like it's
that part does
kind of
they
rough.
They gotta
right?
have it. They gotta have it, right? I mean,
gotta make them have it.
I'm just saying. I think there is a shell, and you play Camball, Profiteering Mayor, which I have been playing, and I've been getting 3 months off that bad boy. Dude, it's. I think this card has play to it. I think it has play to it. Soul Cauldron, I think everything breaks at Soul Cauldron.
That is fair.
Eventually, that card's got to get banned, but we're gonna see. However, I think Aerith actually has play because she's a Pridemate that has lifelink. So simple, such a simple touch to it, but I think that's going to give it play.
Is Pridemate even good though? They just bounce. Like you just bounce it back.
If you
right?
play enough of them,
yeah,
maybe
you could
just
currently
overload
play like
them.
12 Pridemates in Standard, right? Just if you play a play set of each one that I can currently think of off the top of my head, hell, you could curve into nothing but. Right? Because then you also you have the big angel version. So you have 16.
Yeah.
You have 16 Pridemates.
I mean, having the life gain is the life link is relevant because like let's say you get like a giant Pridemate, they chump it, they're like whatever. But like you chump Aerith, they're like, thanks, I'm at like 40 life now or like 30 life. Like, can you actually kill me now? Right? So even though you're not winning, you're not losing as you like start gaining like crazy amounts of life.
You're not losing. The control player mentality.
I mean, like Prowess, I don't think Prowess can deal 40 damage, right? It takes a lot of setup to do that much damage, right? So
yeah.
All right. Okay, let's talk about Starting Town. It's a land. It's a town, would you have guessed it? This land enters tapped unless it's your first, second, or third turn of the game. Tap to add colorless. Tap, pay 1 life, add 1 mana of any color. All right.
Very likely
true
the most
5-color
important standard card in the set. I think this is the most important standard card that we've seen in the whole set. Like we're losing half the fast lands, we're losing all the pain lands. There's not really any good untapped duels. There's Verges, but then you need the support for them. So we're kind of light on just early game. I'm playing aggro. I need an untap land once we hit rotation this summer. And I think that this is the best replacement we have. This is the Painland replacement, and I think it's going to be a 4 of in a ton of standard decks, at least for the short term this summer. Maybe like 9 months from now, after we get 3 more sets, we'll have more lands and it'll be less important. But I think short term, this is like a hugely important standard card.
Yeah. This is probably the best card that, like, locked in. Like, you already know this is getting played. It's whole duration.
Why'd they have to make it so good? Like, the fact that you
It's
can
so
use
good.
colorless to prevent the damage later on, it's kind of scuffed. I mean, I guess you're not really making it a turn 5. I mean, like, there's no downside to it, right? It's like, even if you play it untapped and you pay life for the first 3 turns, right? Like, that's a fetch shock. Like, you would easily pay that to have like a good mana base in standard, and then later on it's just colorless, so it doesn't even hurt you anymore. So it's basically fetch shock, right? So I think it's extremely good, and it would still see play if you had to pay life the remainder of the game, right? But you don't.
Yes. So with the fact that you don't have to pay life for the remainder of the game makes me wonder, is this better than City of Brass and Mana Confluence? Those cards show up in like Pioneer, some Fringe Modern decks. So the downside is come into play untapped after turn 3. So turn 4 on, this is going to come into play tapped. Those other cards, though, you always have to take a damage from them. There's no option in the late game to take make a generic mana and take 0 damage. I almost think that, especially in the context of older formats that tend to be pretty fast, I almost think this is better than Mana Confluence and better than City of Brass.
The only problem is that those are always guaranteed to be untapped.
That's true.
And you need the 4th land drop, right?
Yeah.
That's the question. It's good.
I mean, I could see why.
I could
see why. You would think that this is better because I agree, like, obviously for the obvious, right? But the untapped part is just so important. Like, yeah, I don't know. I think I still want like not reflection pool, mana confluence. Yeah.
All right.
Unless there is something to do with towns. If that matters, then this changes, right?
So far, that does not matter, really. We've seen a couple of very fringe things, like, if it's a town, you gain 2 life on a Satyr Wayfinder or whatever, but we haven't really seen a full town payoff yet.
Let's talk about Summon Knights of the Round. So 8 mana, double white. So it's a white, 8 mana total with double white in it. Indestructible 3/3 Saga Knight. Chapters 1, 2, 3, and 4 create 3/2/2 white knight creature tokens. And then 5 other creatures you control get +2/+2 until end of turn. Put an indestructible counter on each of them.
Oh, good lord. I mean, this has so many memories for me right now. Like, looking at this is like the best summon in Final Fantasy. We all know that, but like, I'm talking as a child before the internet. You know how hard it was to get all the information and like where to go to get this? Like, get the golden chocobo to then fly around and like, dude, it was like you had to meet other like kids in like the like what is it, in the like cafeteria lines, get like hearsay nonsense that maybe it is true, like, oh, you got to go find this materia in Narnia or something like that, which was wrong. That doesn't exist. But yeah, like there were so many materials that went into making this in game. And
like chocobo racing, Krim? I remember chocobo racing.
Dude,
breeding chocobos just to get this garbage.
Yeah. You had to do so much to get this. And that's why it's got to be 8 mana. That's why it's got to have multiple chapters, because you spend so much time getting every materia. And more importantly, I think it's pretty good. Every chapter is just 3 knights. Hell, I'm not going to lie to you. You've got your knights and a 3/3 indestructible body.
Yeah.
Is it good enough as a reanimation target? Okay, no one's casting this, right? You're not making it to 8 mana.
Yeah,
right?
8 mana.
You would reanimate this. It creates 3 2/2s. It itself is indestructible. Would this be good enough as a reanimation target?
I feel like it's in the conversation, at least. It's close. It's got to be close. Like, so Atraxa is going to be finally rotating, right? We finally lose Atraxa, which is kind of the biggest one. Valgavoth, I guess, still exists. Atali, the best Atali, is rotating. So I feel like there's gonna be an option, the potential for this card to see play. It really depends on the meta. It lines up really well with like Wraths outside of Sunfall. Like, even if your opponent can sweep your board, you just still keep making these knights. Eventually, you're gonna overwhelm your opponent. So I think there's a chance we see decks that reanimate this. Plus, it's an enchantment, and we have some cards, especially from the Final Fantasy fantasy set, but cards that specifically reanimate enchantments, saga synergies, and so forth. So I think there's a shot. What do you think, Krim? Can we see this in standard as a sneak it into play type of card?
Yeah. I mean, the best part about it is that it's not all your eggs in one basket in that way. It's like one of those things where now I've answered your indestructible knight, so you don't keep making knight tokens, but there's still 3 knights left over. So it's a multi-card like requirement for you to fully answer this, because Gix's command is leaving, right? So that's also going to be rotating as well. So I am curious. Yeah, I am very, very curious to see how we're going to deal with this post board, because everything is destroy. Sunfall is leaving, as you had mentioned. So I think this is a very good target to reanimate.
Nowhere to run. Why?
Yeah,
but
no,
nowhere to run only answers.
You still
It only answers the 3/3 though. That's it.
But that's fine. I don't know. If you spent all your time reanimating and then you end up with just 3 2/2s after they answer it, it's kind of bad, right?
Rich, you're an enjoyer of Lingering Souls, right? You remember Lingering Souls?
That was time.
There was a little mana difference.
Yeah,
too,
there's a mana difference. But it's more of just like what Lingering Souls represents, right? When someone casts it. And I think this does that. But on a bigger
I
scale.
want this card to work, but you're like, I do this, make 3/3 nice and slick shot showdown, blah blah blah, you're dead. It doesn't fly. They don't even beat the prowess tokens. They'll probably just eat all your knights. They can just bounce it. They can just bounce the body. You just end up with 3 2/2 knights. Is that what you want? I don't know, right? There's all kinds of worlds where this goes wrong.
If you throw them all in front of a creature, you soak up most of a monstrous rage. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
Not much of that damage will get through. Maybe a little, but
Isn't that rotating?
I do want to make this work, though.
No, monstrous rage isn't rotating.
Oh. Well,
this is
sort
a
of
perfect control finisher, right? You somehow slap this down. You just keep doing your control things, and every turn a wave of knights come, right?
I think it can work. I think it can work.
Sick.
Yeah. I think we'll actually see it in standard. I think you probably got to reanimate it, but yeah, I think we can see it in standard. I get it. Oh yeah. Oh, that is an expensive high mana value deck.
Yeah, you don't ever want those in your openers.
I gotta ask you guys about this one card. We're getting to the end of this cast, but I gotta know if I'm off base here, because when I saw this, I immediately was like, oh my god, this card is so cringe. But I'm not a Final Fantasy player, and that card is called Instant Ramen. 2 mana food artifact with flash. When it enters, you draw a card, then you pay 2 and sack it to gain 3 life. To me, this is like the Doctor Who British guy eating his sandwich in the garage of the Final Fantasy set. But what do you think? I don't know Final Fantasy. What is this in Final Fantasy? What is the crossover here?
So
do you just eat ramen in the game?
It's a consumable but it's truly a flavor win. And in that, yes, that is a pun, but also, did you see Noctis, Prince of Lucas or Lucius?
Oh, where you can cast artifacts from the graveyard? Yeah.
Yeah. He's from 15, and that's pretty much an infinite loop, right? Okay, not really. But you get to consume ramen one more time, which is what they do. That game is a lot of them riding around in the regalia. It's a bunch of bros on a road trip taking selfies in front of cyberpunk fantasy creatures and eating food and instant ramen. So I personally love this as a flavor win, and I'm not talking about that as a food thing. I am genuinely talking about it from the point of view of just a Final Fantasy fan, right? I think this card is sick. I don't think it's that off, it's weird or cringe, because we have lots of food and consumables. We had Lembas or whatever from Lord of the Rings, and we had Dockside Chef. He's literally eating
how many
noodles.
of those foods can I just go and get in my grocery store, though, Krim? I'm just it's so modern and so realistic.
Yeah, you have carrot cake.
Remember bacon to a pie? all those stupid cards. Okay, ginger brew. It's a literal gingerbread man.
Yeah, those are fantastical though, a little bit, right? Though I don't see instant ramen. Instant ramen's like the college food, right? You get the
no. You're not doing it right. You're not doing it right, Seth. You're not doing it right.
That's what I know of ramen. Yeah,
you gotta get an egg on top of that. Put some seaweed on there, and then you're like, oh, well, hold on. This is way different.
You're not selling
dining.
Krim.
This is Gain 4 life. This is not Gain 3 life. It does look out of place. It looks out of place even to Final Fantasy fans, I will say. Because I remember when I first saw, when we first were exposed to 15, we're like, why is it a bunch of dudes in a truck eating ramen? Like, how is this Final Fantasy? I believe that was the reaction of most people. And then now we just accept it. But it is a little strange, right? Because prior to this, it's all fantasy consumables, right? Like, eat your high potions, your ethers, your whatever, right? Your cookies. Cookies somehow gets the pass, but instant ramen.
Let me ask you this, Richard. How is this any different than, say, like a baguette, or like the sashimi plates, or like the barbecue plates that they have in game?
I think the difference is, like, you associate a brand with this, even though there's no brand with it. Like, if it was like a cookie versus like an Oreo, I think most people have issue with the Oreo versus like a cookie. I know instant ramen doesn't really have a brand, but the fact that it's like in a disposable cup, right?
That's
like,
kind of a
they
cup
were just
of
eating
noodles,
like a bowl of ramen in like a traditional looking restaurant. I think it would be more like in fantasy versus like this piece of plastic packaging and like throwaway chopsticks or whatever. You're like, you know, a little weird, right?
I think what this tells me, Richard, what this tells me, Richard, is that you have a healthier diet. Good for you, and keep that up. Second off, I don't think of, I guess, what is the actual instant ramen go-to brand? The one that everybody thinks of with this cup. But there's so many different ramen brands that I guess I just don't immediately associate it with
the cup
that
one. I think the cup one.
The Nissan, is it Nissan?
I think so.
No.
I can't even tell you what it is, but I can picture the cup in my head.
Yeah. I am glad it wasn't branded, at least. That is the thing one of the things I
That's
fear
the
the
secret
most.
layer, Seth.
Once things start actually branding, like, could you imagine if this was a coupon and you like can go to your store and hand it in and get 25 cents off your cup of noodles or something? Like, once we start doing that,
Okay,
that's
Seth,
the shark.
How do you feel about Nuka-Cola vending machine?
Nuka-Cola vending machine is pretty cheesy.
It's the same. It's the same.
It is.
Cheesy?
Okay. This is probably hypocritical, but I would say I don't know how you can make a Fallout set without having that, because it's so core to the game. When I think you can make a Final Fantasy set and not make instant ramen.
I
and
think
no
the ramen is.
Oh my god,
4 to
why
15.
isn't there instant ramen? Is
think
it?
the ramen
Okay.
is
I
4 to
guess I don't
15.
know. So maybe you just got to do it then.
All right, hold on, wait. I was just searching. I was searching Nuka-Cola, and this card came up, which I didn't even remember existed. Sierra, Nuka's biggest fan. It looks literally like an ad for a Coca-Cola bottle.
That card's so cheesy. Oh my god. Yeah, it really does. It looks like a modern day influencer too. Oh, ooh, those cards. Anyway, I think that's. Oh, go ahead, Greg.
I'm just gonna clarify real quick that what the stat boosts are for the instant ramen in game. You know, like, it makes sense, right? If you're pulling from every game of Final Fantasy, food has always been a center part of it. Hell, my time playing 14, I literally sat there just making cookies and coffee in Limsa Lumensa and just handing them out to people while dressed up as a barista. That was what I did at 2 a.m. I don't look. What I do on my own time is irrelevant. Okay.
So many questions to unpack.
Unfortunately, we're running out of time, so we'll have to save those questions for a future podcast. But on that note, Richard, no fish mail today, but how do people send them in for once we're out of spoiler season?
All right, if you'd like to know about Crim's extracurricular activities, hit us up at MTGGoldfish with the hashtag MTGFishmail, and we'll get to your questions on air.
And I believe that brings us to the end of episode 536 of the MTG Goldfish podcast. So Richard Crim, thanks for hanging out. Thanks everyone for listening. Thanks to Card Conduit for supporting the show. And we'll be back next week to talk about whatever goes on in the world of Magic. So until then, have an amazing week. And this is a crew signing out.